So before we start coding, you'll notice I've already ran npm run dev to spin up that local server so we can view our application at this address right here. So this is the application in its current form, the dummy application that Vue installs for us using the Vue CLI. Now the first thing I want to do is tackle the Navbar component that will sit at the top. Now before we start to do that, I'd like to load in materialize over here as we have done in the previous two chapters. So I'm going to grab this compiled and minified CSS so we can place that in our index file over here, and we'll place it just below this meta tag. And then also we'll need the Google icon library, which is down here somewhere. There we go, the Google icon one. Copy that and we'll paste that just above like so. Okay, so now we can use those different styles inside our project. Now I'm going to cross off the terminal and this index and this init file that we did in the last video. Now I'd like to create a new component for the navbar, but since there's quite a few different components in this project, what I'm going to do is structure this a little differently over here in the file tree. I'm going to create subfolders inside this components folder just to keep everything modular and separated. So I'm going to create a new folder called layouts. And inside here, I'm going to do any kind of components to do with the layout. Now, since the navbar is to do with the layout, I'm going to create one called navbar.view. Okay, cool. So the first thing we need in here is a template tag at the top. And inside here, we'll do a div, first of all, with a class of navbar. Then inside that, we want to do a nav with a class of deep-purple. That gives it a deep purple background. And in fact, we'll also give this another class just to darken it a little bit, darken-1. So that darkens this background by 1 grade. Okay, so inside this, we want to do a div with a class of container. And remember, the container class from Materialize just brings in everything to a central column. Okay, so inside that, we'll do an anchor tag first of all. And this will have a class equal to brand-logo. So this is a Materialize class as well, just gives our title a little bit of styles and pushes it to the left of the navbar. We'll call this Geo Ninjas, like so. And then underneath that, we'll do a UL tag. And this UL tag will contain all of our different links, and they're going to sit on the right-hand side of the navbar. So we'll do a class here, and that class is going to be equal to right. And that will shift all of this to the right. And in fact, just to be sure, let's do left here. So this is shifted to the left. Okay then, so we don't have any kind of real links at the minute, so we'll just do a couple of dummy ones. We'll do an li, an anchor tag inside. We don't need the href attribute at the minute, so we'll just leave it blank. And then we'll change this to sign up. And then down below, we'll do the same thing, but we'll replace sign up with login. Okay, cool. So now we have that basic template. Now down here, I want to do our script tag, and inside here, we'll give this a name. It will be navbar, and then underneath that, we'll do our data function, and this returns an empty object, just in case we have any data later on. And then finally, in case we do want to add some styles at some point, we'll do a style tag. Cool. So the next thing we need to do is import this navbar into our app.vue, the root component, so that it sits at the top right here. All right. So we'll delete this image first of all. We'll also delete all of these styles. We don't want those. And first of all, we'll import that component. So we'll say import navbar from, and then it's at /components/layout, because we created that layout folder right here, /navbar. Okay, so now we need to register it down here by using the components property. That is an object, and in here we can say navbar. Cool, so now we can nest that navbar component right there at the top. And if we save this, fingers crossed, we should see in our application, if we refresh, that navigation at the top now. Okay, so that's looking a bit better already. We have our navbar component sitting at the top. The next thing we need to do is get rid of all of this stuff and start to replace it with some actual content.